drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
For 20 years, the greatest NHRA sportsman drag race in all of Canada has been the Grandnational Sportsman at Saint-Air International Drag Strip outside of Montreal. For 20 years, Canadian drivers and teams have been trying to beat up on their American counterparts on their home turf in front of their countrymen with, quite frankly, not the success they have wanted. But thanks to license plates and teams like this from Alberta, Canada, they've got their best shot ever in the alcohol funny car category. Stan Cypress, you survive round number 1. You're the quickest car on the grounds left.
Well, all I can say is the sleeping giant has awoken.
Were you worried when Barry Payton, your countryman, who qualified number 1, went out in round number 1, broke? Nobody expected that.
No, I didn't worry about Barry. All I worry about is myself. If I do my job each and every round, that's all I have to worry about. I can't worry about the competition or what they're doing, or who they are.
And you know you have big speed in this car. You've proven that.
Yes, we have. We've gone at Sears Point. We went 597 at 233.50. We lost the blower belt about halfway through third gear there, so we have a little more left in the car, but we don't want to get too greedy.
We may have the maple leaf flag flying in the winner's circle when it's all over.
Well, I certainly hope so, but at this stage of the game, I'm taking one round at a time, and if we just do that and do our job well, we should be there.
Smart racer. Right now, let's go to my buddy, Brock Yates, a smart guy himself. He's with the other heads-up category we'll be featuring today.
Well, Steve, I don't have to tell you that sportsman-type cars come in a wonderful variety of sizes and shapes, but you are looking at the one that is the quickest of all here at Saint-Air, and it belongs to Mike Kowski from Pennsylvania, who, remember, won the Sports Nationals in Columbus last time out. And, Mike, first of all, congratulations once again on a great win down there. I suppose the obvious question, can you repeat?
We're going to sure try. We're putting a lot of effort into winning it this week.
Well, you had quick time in qualifying, and that's obviously a great way to start the week.
Yes, it's a real great way to start the week. We think we can win a deal. We're going to go after it big time.
All right. We'll go get them. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now, let's go to my pal Don Garlitz, who has more on this terrific class of sportsman-type competition.
Well, Brock, our third class for today is Competition Eliminator. Now, in this class, you can spend as much money as you want or as little and still be competitive. You can have a dragster, you can have a roadster, you can have an altered, you can have a modified car. Now, one of the favorites of mine for a vehicle like this would be Garth Hill's 23T. He was runner-up at Columbus. He runs in AA altered turbo. He's got this turbocharger on here. You can see some of the creativity that he's got. And, you know, he's got a lot of stuff to keep up with on a car like this, but that's important because that makes it fun to race. And let me tell you, in a class like this, fun is the name of the game.
Well, Garth Hill, unfortunately, had his fun cut short in round 1 of Competition Eliminator at the hands of one Tony DiCarlo. But the fun continues, Brock Yates, here in round number 2 of the fastest cars in our program today, the top alcohol dragsters.
A couple of veteran East Coast competitors going at it here, Steve. Steve Lamplaw out of Severna Park, Maryland, going up against Cliff Bazzelli from New Jersey. These guys, I'm sure, run each other a whole bunch over the years. And in Saint-Air, as you said earlier, this is a major event for the Canadians and a big deal for the East Coasters as well.
Well, Cliff Bazzelli already today had a big deal earlier in round 1 of elimination. Bazzelli, as you said, from New Jersey, met up with one of the real hotshots in the category, Wayne Selko. Now, here was that run earlier today, and this is just typical of how close alcohol dragster racing can be. Now, watch over in the 4 lane. Boz Baby. Cliff Bazzelli just drilled Selko on the starting line Christmas tree. He got a huge starting line advantage, and even though Selko ran quicker, he lost to Bazzelli's 632, 216 miles an hour. So Bazzelli has advanced strictly on his driving ability to face this man, Steve Lamplaw.
Steve Lamplaw out of Maryland beat Jeff Jones in round number 1, was the 13th qualifier at a 6:43. And here is Lamplaw going up against Bazzelli. Bazzelli gets another good start, Steve.
He sure does, Brock. He was away 0.02 of a second before Lamplaw and outruns him to boot. 641 to a 658. The winning speed, 215 miles per hour. Let's go down to the starting line. Brock is with his dad, Rich, also his crew chief.
Rich, Boz did good. Got to be pleased.
Yeah, we are. We're coming around good. My son's doing a good job.
What do you think's going to take to win this deal?
Well, we got to step her up. I was only at 41, but I think we can do it.
Okay. All right.
Boy, they are having fun. As Don Garlett said, that's what it's all about in NHRA Sportsman drag racing. Coming up next is one of the most successful lady sportsman drivers ever in the history of this sport. It'll be Amy Falk versus Ned Ott. And Amy has won, Brock, as you know, in several different sportsman categories. Stock, super stock. She's even been a world champion in stock eliminator. But this is the fastest ride she's ever had, this car in the near lane.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ned Ott is going to have to be on his toes to beat Amy out of Memphis, Tennessee. Ned Ott, a Bristol, Pennsylvania auto parts owner and operator, is in here against a very, very tough competitor, young Amy Falk.
Let's go to Don Garlett.
Oh, nice run. 6:41. Not the best, but you're in there.
Thank you, Don. We just put this high heel Explorer on here, and we're trying to step it up little by little. And things are starting to come around for us a little bit. I've been waiting to talk to you all day.
Well, that's good. It's best always to just kind of creep up on these things.
Yeah, it is. We don't want to go up here and, you know, burn it up or anything like that, so just sneak on it little by little.
Well, he certainly has the reaction time. Maybe that high helix blower will improve his performance. That's a blower that uses a different contour rotor inside the case, and they create a lot more pressure.
So Amy Falk has lane choice against Ned Ott. As her husband, Kenny Falk, checks third extra out one last time, make sure she staged properly. They've done this hundreds of times, and it's worked successfully. Ned Ott, Steve Evans, he's going to have to squeeze a really good light to beat this lady.
And he better put the pedal to the metal, as most of them do with these alcohol cars. They run tremendous RPM, the engine just screaming. You wonder how they stay together before they ever leave the starting line. It's just incredible. As much as 9,000 RPM with these push-rod motors. Amy in the near lane, Ott in the far lane. And Ott left too soon. The red light aglow on the Christmas tree. That means automatic disqualification. Amy got there first anyway with an outstanding 6:13, 221 miles per hour. Amy has got the performance today, no question about it. Let's go to Brock with her husband at the starting line.
Well, what do you think, Kenny? I know that it wasn't much of a race, but a 6:13 comes up on the board. What do you think?
We need it for next round.
Yeah.
Lane choice.
All right.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's a good chance that Amy saw her opponent foul start, but she legged it on through anyway, trying to get that lane choice. Her 6:13 must be quicker than whatever her opponent runs in this round in the next round. You see right there very clearly, Ott was gambling. He knew he had to get a hole shot to outrun Amy Falk. And already with the starter hooked up as one half of our next pair, we'll be seeing Jeff Rapp when we come back. They don't get to see big-time NHRA drag racing that often, and there wasn't a motorhome, there wasn't a car. Nobody laughed. Soaking wet and all, they just didn't care. This is what they came to see.
And they're going to get a look at Bruce Horner going against Jeff Rapp. Jeff Rapp was the number 3 qualifier. These two New Jerseyites, they've run each other dozens of times. But right now, Jeff Rapp with a 6:21 qualifying time against Horner's 6:41 places him in a very, very favorable position against these in this round 2 action here.
Horner defeated Rich McPhillips in round number 1, while Rapp punted George Ederman out of the competition. So everybody's got a little racing under their belt already today. The huge wings to put downforce right over the rear axle for all the traction they could possibly get. The wing doesn't really start to work until they get about 100 feet down the racetrack. Ooh, a nice hole shot by Horner. Horner, a bit of an underdog, and he pulls it out. 6:37. Oh, Rapp is going to be sick. He went quicker. 6:36. He should have won it had he left on time. He had the biggest speed as well at 217 miles per hour. Let's have one more look back at the starting line and watch for sure the Horner car in the far lane. See if you can see those front wheels move before Rapp's in the near lane. Absolutely, you could see it. Rapp knew he was in trouble, and he did everything he could do to try to catch up to Horner, but there just was no erasing 0.03 of a second advantage off the starting line. 0.03 of a second doesn't sound like much, but it wins drag races just about every time.
Remember, 4/100ths of a second is theoretically the perfect reaction time, so Horner did beautifully and, in fact, nullified Rapp's better ET.
Did it seem like, is the engine okay?
Yeah, it shook a lot in second gear, but that was about it. It pulled on the top end. I think it'll be okay for next round.
Great.
I think sometimes, Brock, maybe these drivers are a little stunned when they get out of the car and there's their hero. Big Daddy Don Garlett sticking a mic in their face. It's a little intimidating if you're not used to it, especially seeing somebody like Big.
Absolutely. Big is without question the man in this sport, and I think he tends to give a little mic pride to a couple of folks. After all, there is no greater master of what's going on in this sport than Garlitz. And what are you going to tell a man who supposedly knows everything about this business?
Well, I tell you, here's a man who knows just about everything about alcohol dragster racing with the Oldsmobile in the near lane. Mike Koski, we talked to him earlier in the show. He won at the Columbus Sportsman race just 1 week ago. Tony Labor, his opponent, over on the far side, and he's using the Hemi engine. And this is a weight to cubic inch class, also the design of the engine factored in. Mike Koski with the Oldsmobile instead of the Hemi. His car's allowed to be a little lighter if they both have the same size engine. So some people think that's an advantage for the Olds. Who's to say? The Hemis still win their share of drag races.
I'm sure that Koski's thinking about that 6:13 that Amy Falk just laid down a couple of passes earlier. He, of course, has run a 6:08 in qualifying, so he's in pretty good shape. Of course, he's got to get by Tony Labor, but needless to say, Koski is a confident man. He likes this racetrack. He likes the way this car is running right now, and I'm sure he reckons he's going to face Amy sooner or later.
It's a dead even start. Koski already shows who's boss in this pair. Oh, boy. 6.06. That'll get everybody's attention at 225 miles per hour. Labor trailing at 6.41 seconds. Let's go to Brock on the starting line with Jim Danclo, crew chief for Mike Koski.
Jim, 6:06, got to be pleased with that.
We're happy. We had to change a motor this morning, and a lot of the guys came around and helped us, and we're just happy that we could step up this round, and hope we can keep it up.
You think a 6:06 can win it?
Oh, I think so. If we stay there, I think we'll be in the circle.
Good deal. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree with that. 6.06. That was a shot. So the semifinals in top alcohol dragster racing will look like this. Mike Koski will have lane choice, no question about that, over Cliff Bazzelli. And the other half of the semifinals will find Bruce Horner versus Amy Falk, and Amy from Tennessee has the lane choice. Right now, out of the car is Mike Koski. He's with Don.
Great pass, Mike. 6:06, low ET in the round.
All right. We knew we could do that. Gee, thanks. We're going to beat them all today.
Well, good. Good.
Is this man ready? That's Bob Newberry, one of the best of the top alcohol funny car drivers. He'll be up shortly.
Fire smoking drag racing action you tuned in for, but you're going to get it here in just a second. Alcohol funny cars on the pad. But remember to stay tuned to TNN, because immediately after our coverage here of the NHRA Lake Grandnational Sportsman, it's NHRA Today, the weekly magazine show of the sport of championship drag racing.
Well, right now, though, Steve, we've got ourselves some great top alcohol funny car action coming up. Bob Elliott versus Frank Madden. This is round 2. These guys are good runners. Elliott ran 6:11 to qualify third. He beat Barry Dobbs in round number 1. Madden was the number 11 qualifier to 6:23. He put away Ernie Karp in round number 1.
Now, these funny cars run very similar numbers to the dragsters, even though they're heavier with the bodies on them. That's because they're allowed the largest engines in all of drag racing, most of them well over 500 cubic inches.
Very reliable race cars, though. Very stable. You very seldom see much in the way of mechanical failure. Almost like pro stock in their own way, and they're so reliable. And you've got to cut a good light to win in this competition.
One thing these cars do a lot, though, and that is kind of bob and weave their way down the racetrack. They're always right at the edge of smoking that tire. The traction coefficient is very, very narrow and very tight. You'll see them move around a lot. They're very susceptible to any little bump in the racetrack, more so than the long wheelbase dragsters. All in all, they're a totally different animal to drive, even though the engines, I'll bet bigger, are almost identical. Now, Bob Elliott here in the Tower Lane, he is part of the Canadian contingent with that Oldsmobile-bodied car. His opponent, Frank Madden, well, he's one of the many racers in the blown alcohol classes from the state of New Jersey, the Garden State.
There is Elliott's crew chief, Don Palmer, guiding him back into the nice fat part of this staging area where all that rubber's laid down. Critical for all drag racing competitors to find that right groove off the starting line. There's Madden. Crew chief going to flop that little lid down there. Last little bit of air conditioning for him, Steve.
That's right. That's the only air circulation you get is through the mandatory emergency hatch. Now, that little hole, that round hole in the left-hand side windows, those are also mandatory in case you have a fire, because the safety safari somewhere to stick the hose, maybe help you out a bit. All right, here we go. The Canadian Elliott up against the New Jersey driver, Frank Madden. This is round 2, alcohol funny car competition. As they inch very carefully into the infrared beams, the pre-stage light on top helps them get positioned right on the starting line. When all 4 of those staging lights are on, it's ready to race time. Oh, Madden with a great start in the far lane. And Madden gets a little loose in the middle of the racetrack. Almost lost control of the car. That was just enough for Canadian Elliott to stick a fender in front of him and take the win at 6:16 to a 6:26, 226 miles per hour for the winning driver. Let's go down to the starting line and have a chat with Don Palmer and Brock Yates.
Don, 6:16, good, tight race. What do you think is going to take to win this deal?
Just about where we are. Nobody's really run away with it. You know, it's been low teens to low 20s all weekend. Nobody's got a real handle on it.
He seems to be running real consistently all the way through.
Well, we've done our homework and listened to our peers and trying to get a job done, you know.
Congratulations. We'll see you later next round.
Well, let's have another look at what was a very interesting alcohol dragster funny car confrontation. And especially interesting for the man in the far lane, Madden. When he got the jump, Brock, you know, he couldn't see the other driver, and he thought, oh, boy, I think I've got this thing. And all of a sudden, the car started to drive him just about this point.
Well, I'm sure he had to get out of the throttle just for a millisecond, and that right there was enough to give Elliott a big, big victory, really. They were almost nose-to-nose at half track, but Elliott takes out the victory in good shape.
Well, chalk one up for Canada, eh? 6:16.
Well, we hope for more, Don, but we're on a slippery track today, and we'll take what we can get round by round.
Ain't that the way it always is? I was always happy to get what I could get.
Yeah, our last 5 events, we've set top mile an hour of the event, and we just missed our clutches. We're doing us in every time.
Those clutches. Anybody could ever figure those things out. This is Bob Newberry, one of the finest of the fine in top alcohol funny car. And Steve, he's good against yet another one of the Canadian contenders.
Tell you what, this is really a battle of the titans from both sides of the border. Newberry, as close as you could get to a professional in this category, really earns his living racing and building engines for other drivers. The Canadian, as he told us earlier in the show, Cyprus, that car has run well over 235 miles per hour, and that is fast on straight methanol fuel. No nitrates allowed. It's one of the biggest speeds ever recorded in the class.
Sure is. Newberry was the number 2 qualifier. He ran a 6:10. And beat Peter Brozine Jr. in round number 1. Cypos, well, he was number 7 qualifier. Not bad, though, at 6:14. He beat Dick Bell in round number 1.
Now, Bob Newberry, Schenectady, New York, is a very intense guy. I don't know if he's having as much fun as Don Garlis was talking about earlier. Stan Cypos, well, he's pretty much always smiling. Drag racing, just kind of a giggle for him.
Okay, we got a couple of good ones, as Steve said earlier. Pretty evenly matched automobiles, and, of course, drivers of a high level of experience and confidence. So let's see what happens. It'll probably be a question of a reaction time here, unless somebody gets sideways like Elliott did in the last race.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch that far lane and see if maybe it's a track problem as opposed to a race car problem. Newberry is in that far lane. Cyprus is in the near lane. Newberry last to stage. The engine screaming on the starting line. Cyprus, a little tire smoke. Cyprus has to steer away from the wall. Newberry in a romp. He ought to be excited. That crew chief, 6:07 for Bob Newberry, and a whopping speed, 229 miles per hour. Let's again go down to the starting line. Brock Yates with the crew chief for Newberry.
Ed, 6:07. That's a real stout run.
That's a good run for this track today.
Yeah.
Very good. That's the best we've done all weekend.
6:07. Mike, a couple of more might do it, huh?
Well, we had to step it up against Cypos. He ran 10 last run.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, Cypos might have also stepped up his car a bit too much. You heard some of the drivers comment on not ideal tracks and conditions. Watch the red car. He's okay on the concrete launch pad, but as soon as the concrete turns to asphalt, where the car is nearing right now, you'll see a little bit of smoke right there start to come off of those tires. One tire getting a better grip than the other drives him toward the rail, and rather than risk a $50,000, $60,000 funny car, he wisely got off the pedal. Let's again go to the far end. Don's with the winner.
6:07, Bob.
6:07, we're real happy with that number. We've had the power backed off a little bit because we've been afraid of the racetrack, but Cypos went out and run a 6:10 around before, and he had lane choice, and we knew we'd have to step on it. And that's what we did.
How many times have you won this race?
Well, we've won it 3 times. I've been in the final here, I think, 4 or 5 times, and I'd sure like to make it one more time.
I know what you mean.
Thank you very much.
They always talk about running my own race, but you can tell by their conversations, they're all paying attention to what the competition is doing every round.
Saint-Air outside Montreal, Quebec, as we watch Amy Falk get ready for her semifinal action in top alcohol dragster. I'm Brock Yates, along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlis. But before we see Amy race, this is more top alcohol funny car action. Paul Johnson versus Herb Rogers. Herb Rogers, one of the 2 Canadians left in this competition. He got in as an alternate, Steve, and then beat the #1 qualifier, Barry Payton, one of his countrymen, who qualified at 6:08 and then went out early.
That's right. He broke right on the burnout, as a matter of fact. Never even got to stage the car. Paul Johnson, he qualified number 8 at a 6:15 and blew Chuck Cheeseman away in round number 1. And this guy ought to be smiling. Herb Rogers, London, Ontario, Canada. That picture was taken when he knew he was getting in as an alternate. He's really smiling now in round number 2.
He sure is. But we'll have to see whether he keeps smiling after he gets through facing off against Paul Johnson in that little 88 Trans Am of his. He's been running really well. Qualified 8th, as you said. 527-inch engine inside that car here in the left side of your screen.
And boy, that machine in the far lane, the red and white flying glass car, is really aerodynamically sound looking. I don't know if the wind tunnel would make a liar out of me, but it just looks really swoopy compared to some of the others.
Real pretty race cars here. There is the Herb Rogers car getting staged. He is an underdog here without any question, just squeezed into this event. Great hole shot by Herb Rogers. Then he's loose at half track, and Johnson nips him in the light. 6:16 for Paul Johnson, 228 miles an hour. Johnson at 6:25 at 2:20. So Paul Johnson advances.
And I guarantee you Rogers made him a little bit nervous, though. As we take a look at this race in replay, watch the red and white car in the far lane. I think you'll clearly see the starting line advantage. Now, how much was that? 5/100ths of a second, according to NHRA's reaction timers, and that could be almost a full car length at the far end. But the hole shot was probably negated by that bump over in the left-hand lane that got the car just a little bit squirrely. But certainly Paul Johnson's performance was outstanding at 6.16 seconds, 228 miles per hour. Big Daddy's down at the far end to talk with him.
Well, a 6:16, not the best in the round, but you got through the round, and that's what's important in drag racing, to make it to the next one.
Certainly is, Don. We're just happy to be here. I got to thank my crew. I got the best crew in the world. I got Bob Ellison, who's been in this business for years. He's my crew chief. My daughter, Dawn, who just graduated from high school, and she hasn't been home a weekend since. And Doug Shazot, the greatest kid. I'll tell you, he's one of the greatest crew hands that a guy could ever want. And we're just thrilled to be here.
The crews are important. They always were with me.
Oh, I'll tell you. You know, it's such a team effort, and everybody's working together, and we got great harmony going. And this has been a long time coming for us.
Great.
Thank you very much.
A lot of optimism on the part of Paul Johnson and, of course, his crew, and a man who's headed for the semifinals as we go back to the starting line for more top alcohol funny car action. And Steve Evans, Danny Townsend, having completed his burnouts, came in here as always a favorite. We saw him win at Columbus a few weeks earlier, and this man is always a contender in any kind of drag racing competition. It's surely going to be tough here.
But he was actually out-qualified by the man he has to race right now, Ron Scott. Scott qualified 4th at 6:12 and beat Craig Gleason in round 1. Townsend qualified number 5 at 6:13 and beat Jim Bailey earlier today in round number 1. That crew person out there is so important. The burnout is wasted if you're not in your own hot, sticky tracks.
Well, you know, almost that Townsend could probably eyeball his way in. He's so experienced. Ron Scott, though, the same kind of a competitor, and as you said earlier, had a better qualifying time, but only by a few hundredths of a second, and that really is nullified this far into the competition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Townsend in an 88 Thunderbird bodied car. Ron Scott has an 89 Beretta. Sure. Doesn't that look like your Beretta?
Yeah, my Beretta, yeah.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
Place.
My Beretta happens to be front-wheel drive, though, and doesn't have about 2,500 horsepower. To tell you the truth, I don't have a Beretta, but it made for a good story. Okay, here we go. Danny Townsend and Ron Scott. Scott maybe a little bit of a performance edge, that car in the far lane. In the near lane, Townsend certainly the experience advantage. Townsend with an incredible hole shot. I think it bothered Scott so much he darn near gave up about half track. Danny Townsend, not only a hole shot, but a great number. 6.18 seconds at 224 miles per hour. Let's go to Brock with his crew chief, Fred Flegel.
Well, Fred, looked like he was a little wobbly at the start, and then he straightened it out and ran nice and true to the finish for 6:18.
Right. We're not having as much luck as what we'd like to get the whole of the track right here. We're changing tires, clutch combination, all that business. Danny's doing a good job of consistent driving. If we keep up like this, we're right in a race. I think we'll be real good.
Newberry, I would reckon, is the man to beat.
He's in the finals with us.
Okay.
Count
Well,
on
look forward to it.
Okay.
Okay, so the semifinals and top alcohol funny car will look like this. It will be the man on the left there, Danny Townsend. Maybe needs a few hundreds to win this thing. He's up against Paul Johnson, and Johnson has the lane choice. Remember that bump on the far side? Bob Elliott will be up against Bob Newberry, U.S. versus Canada. Newberry will have the lane choice. Let's go to Don Garlick.
Well, Danny, you're right in there with a 6:18. It's anybody's race at this point.
I was hoping for a little better than an 18. Seems like we've dropped off the pace a little bit this weekend, and we've been searching, and we're going to change a few more things, I guess.
Well, with the exception of one other car, I think that's right in there.
Well, hopefully we can just kind of nitpick it a little bit and come right down through there. Thank you.
Great.
Well, that man, Danny Townsend, came from the classic competition we're going to see next in our coverage, Competition Eliminator, and they don't miss him a bit. He dominated the category for years.
I'm Brock Yates, along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, back in Saint-Air, Quebec for more Le Grandnational Sportsman competition. And Steve, we move into the so-called run what you brung category, Competition Eliminator, and we'll see about anything that rolls on four wheels here.
It's a terrific potpourri of race cars. In this third round action, David Rampey, Woodland, Alabama. He will be up against Larry Kopp, one of the big names in Competition Eliminator from Baltimore, Maryland. Each class in comp is assigned a performance index by NHRA. Rampey's C economy altered a 9.15, Kopp's D altered an 8.75. Do the subtraction, and Rampey will get 0.4 of a second head start, dialed into the electronic Christmas tree. There's a half a second between lights, so it's just a little less than a full light on the tree. There you see the staggered countdown of the Christmas tree. The better reaction to the tree went to Rampey by 0.05 of a second. And Kopp cannot catch him. Rampey 871, 153 miles per hour. Kopp 826, 162. Had the racetrack been about 20 feet longer, Kopp might have got past him. But I'm telling you, it was the starting line advantage that paid off for Rampey. A very good reaction to the light. Now, is it tougher to be the guy that has to wait? Sure it is. But the great equalizer is you give your opponent the first chance to foul start. If he does so, it doesn't matter what you do. Now, Kopp's top speed is about 11, 12 miles an hour faster than Rampey's, and you'll see that visibly right here. He was making a big charge. Rampey holding his breath, hoping not to see that red car, and he never did.
That mean I won? Come on up.
Sure did, David. 8:51.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Felt good to do that. It was a tight race. I'm telling you, it was tight. I didn't know who got there.
Yeah. From down here, it looked like it was real close.
Yeah, it really was. It was just dead even almost at the finish line.
Well, apparently he did see Kopp with his peripheral vision, but that's the beauty of Competition Eliminator. All different types of cars equalized by NHRA's very accurate and very successful index system.
All right, this is Ray Smith and that little Alders going up against Ken Voigt in the Camaro. Two really contrasting automobiles, engineering-wise, and certainly as far as the body styles are concerned. This is more Competition Eliminator round 3 action. Smith has the lane choice in that little Alders, Steve.
That's right, and they can do it just like the heads-up car, whoever ran closest to his index. Ken Voigt out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and he faces this fella. This is Ray Smith of South Hadley, Massachusetts. Boy, from all over the northeastern Canada, they have come to Saint-Air. Now, there again, you see Voigt C Super Modified, 985. Smith, the quicker class, A economy altered at 840. Big head start. Almost 3 lights on the Christmas tree. And it's Voigt who will be leaving first, the car over in the far lane. He's gone. There goes Smith.
Oh, the folks love this game of catch-up. As you see Smith trying to run down. Boy, I'll tell you what, does the handicap system work or not? Ray Smith, 792, 163 miles an hour, and he nailed him almost exactly in the light, Steve.
Even though Voigt over in the far lane had a better reaction time, his leave time as compared to his light. Smith played it a little conservative, wanted to make absolutely sure he didn't red light, and boy, when he set sail, he did it with a vengeance. And when a car comes by you going 20, 30 miles an hour faster, it's quite a sensation, even for the loser here over in the far lane. Zoom! He is right by. Let's go down to the far end, Don Garland.
A 792, Ray.
That's good, Don.
Had a good time for you, huh?
Yeah, we shut it off a little early. Once we got by him, we knew we had him covered.
Great.
Well, Ray Smith taking good care of his equipment, winning by only as much as he absolutely has to. You know, the only thing weirder than some of the cars in Competition Eliminator is the way these teams transport them from race to race. Rock Gate had a look a bit earlier on.
One of the real fixtures in big-time automobile racing these days is a motor coach. All the heavy-duty teams have got them, you know, for hospitality and taking care of things in the pits, and oh, they're pretty nice to have. But I'll tell you what, Alan Armstrong from Nova Scotia, he's got a different deal. He not only takes his VIPs along with him, but he takes the car as well. This little M Altered here, this little Opel, Alan carries right in the back of this bus. Pretty slick deal. He converted it last year, and it makes for a beautiful unit. You can see a little hydraulic lift that drops the car in and out of here. There's only one problem. If Alan gets a bigger car, he's going to have to get a bigger bus as well.
Great looking outfit. All right, let's continue with Competition Eliminator Racing. And doing his burnout is John Tartaglia in the A Economy Dragster. Now, when you see that E for economy, it usually means you can't run a high-dollar sophisticated induction system. You're going to have to be running a carburetor up on that manifold. It also has to do with the transmission. You've got to use a torque converter instead of some other more expensive lash-ups. A true story. They try to keep it a little more economical. Now, his competition, we'll soon see over in the far lane, is the last Canadian left in this category, but one of the toughest racers in the U.S. or Canada, Ralph Hope. Pretty little orange roadster. Now, earlier, Ralph Hope got together with Vinnie Barone. And if you watched our coverage from Sanair 1 year ago, you know that Vinnie Barone just whipped up on the entire field, won the category with his roadster from Dick Hills, New York. Now, Barone has a brand new roadster this year, a B Street roadster, Index 9 flat, to Hope's 898. Only 2/100ths of a second advantage went to Vinnie Barone in the near lane. Boy, is that a classic-looking hot rod, Brock?
First time out, Stephen. Remember, Vinnie beat Alan Armstrong with a little Opel that I showed you a little bit earlier in the first round.
So this was, earlier, the defending champion was in the near lane, Vinnie Barone, but his new race car was not up to the six-cylinder Allard of Ralph Hope. Hope now to face off with the dragster of John Tartaglia. Tartaglia also from the state of Maine, and he is going to have to give quite an advantage to Ralph Hope. 1.27 seconds. But again, Tartaglia has to wait, but he gives Hope the chance to red light, and if he does, well, the win is Tartaglia's.
Well, if you had just walked into the place and sat down and watched this race, you'd think that Hope was running all by himself and that Tartaglia had just stalled on the line or something, because over a second advantage on the part of that little roadster over there, it looks like it's insurmountable, really. They make for great, great competitions here.
All right, let's watch Hope in the far lane. Not a particularly great light, but neither did Tartaglia. The reaction time's about the same. Here comes the dragster. Can he catch him? No cigar. It is Hope at 8:51.45. Tartaglia 7:33, 181 miles an hour. Hope must have thought his motor fell out when Tartaglia blasted by him, but it was Hope getting to the stripe first.
Okay, last race in round 3 of Competition Eliminator. That's Tom Cressman in his little Camaro C Super Modified. He's going to go against Bob Kaiser, but I'll tell you what, Steve, I don't see Kaiser anywhere. I don't think he's going to answer the bell here.
No, he's nowhere to be seen, not on the starting line, not back in the staging lanes, and they're not going to wait any longer for it. So Thomas Cressman gets a huge, huge gift here. Cressman from Broomall, Pennsylvania, has nobody to race. Starter Buster Couch waves him into the beams all by himself, but you can bet he'll make a pretty good run. for lane choice, and also just to make sure the combination is still there. Sometimes on a single you can find out you've got a bad part or a bad ignition system or whatever and get it fixed. So no way do you just limp them down the racetrack. That's not smart racing.
No. You give it everything you got every time you roll out onto the quarter mile, and a good start by Cressman. All alone, no major problems, no defeat in sight here. He's just looking for lane choice.
So with a big wheel stand off the mark, which is typical of a C Super modified car, a 939 at 141 miles per hour puts Thomas Cressman into the semifinals here in Quebec. And here are the pairings for that all-important semifinal round. It will be Ray Smith up against Cressman. Cressman has the lane choice. He ran closer to his index than Ray Smith did. In the other half, Ralph Hope will give up lane choice to David Rampy. And don't you know, all the Canadians here will be hoping for Hope.
We're going to have to wait a little bit because we've got top alcohol dragster semifinal competition coming up. That's Amy Falk. She's ready to go.
We're back at Sanair International Drag Strip. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and that is Amy Falk, Burnin' Rubber. You know, there's a drag racing feature that you are sure to want to take advantage of. It's NHRA Now, presented by Castrol. NHRA Now is a 24-hour telephone hotline featuring in-depth coverage of your favorite drivers and events. Give them a call. You know, Brock, Amy had a little bit of a scare earlier today. There was quite a crosswind after that storm blowing across the racetrack, and it kind of got her parachute as it came out, and she had to do some tall driving. So there's really two challenges. One go, the other stop.
That's right. And while this drag race is plenty long and plenty wide, when you get going over 200 miles an hour, you want to have not only a good chute, but plenty of brake in these automobiles. And she did have a little bit of a start, but got it gathered up. No major problem now as she gets ready to go against Bruce Horner. Falk has the lane choice, which is obviously an advantage here. There's her husband, Kenny, getting ready, checking things out. Amy all ready to go. She's going to flip that visor down and get ready to stand on the gas, or the alcohol, I should say.
That is a Chevrolet-style motor in the Horner Brothers car. Amy has the big Hemi, and Amy has the big numbers of the two. So she'll be in the near lane. Here we see the front wheels edging towards those infrared beams. It amazes me, the length of the car, how confident and quickly these drivers can move up and stage. Falk near lane from Tennessee. It's Horner away first. Amy immediately covers him up. She was being very, very safe off the starting line. Oh, boy. 6.06, one of her best runs ever, at 223 miles per hour. Amy goes to the finals. Let's go to Brock Yates on the starting line once again with her husband, Kenny.
6:06, you got to be pleased.
Happy.
Good.
Happy.
Any changes at all coming up?
We might have a little bit left.
Okay.
These are good races out here, and everybody here has been great to us, and we're enjoying it.
Great. Congratulations.
We're enjoying it as well. Kenny, a great job by Amy and Kenny Falk. Now, who is Amy going to face in the final of the top alcohol dragster category? Will it be this man, Mike Koski? Very possibly so. He has tremendous performance with that Oldsmobile engine. Or might it be Cliff Bazzelli? Doesn't appear to have the performance of Koski, but if enthusiasm means anything, Brock, this kid could win it.
Well, he's also cut some great lights here, but he's going to have to against Koski, who's been very, very quick. And now, let's go to Big Daddy at the other end of the racetrack with Amy Falk.
A 6:06, I believe that's a career best, isn't it, Amy?
It is. 09 was my quickest up in this. I can't believe it. 06, I can't believe it. That scared him a while ago. Helped me out, didn't it? I can't believe that. I can't believe that. It's unbelievable.
That's a real fine run anywhere for anybody.
It's great. We've got a motor from Bob Newberry we've been thrashing on, and we've had some problems with it, and it's like a bracket motor. It's coming along, I'll tell you. Really excited about it.
Should make a real fine final.
Well, he knows we're here, doesn't he? Just need to have a killer tree and go with it.
Everybody knows you're here, Amy. Even Mike Koski here, who a lot of people thought Brock had a chance of winning the World Championship this year. But there's a fellow who's not here, Blaine Johnson from California, who has so many points already he doesn't need to be here. The best Koski could do with a terrific season is number 2.
And Koski definitely has victory here in mind. Remember, we saw him win at Columbus just a short while ago. So Koski is on a roll. But Cliff Bazzelli if he's going to cut another one of those quick lights, he could put old Mike on the trailer long before he gets to victory lane here at San Air.
That's right. I don't know if Mike Koski has been watching or following the progress of Bazzelli. Probably not. But old Boz baby over there, it's like he's got a friendly deal with that Christmas tree.
You got to have a friendly deal with a Christmas tree if you're going to win in alcohol dragsters.
Best reaction time of the day goes to Bazzelli in the far lane, but by half track. Koski thunders around with low elapsed time of the event in the category, 6 seconds flat. 226.30 miles per hour to a 6:43 for the loser Bazzelli. Brock has the winning crew chief.
Well, Jim, Mike came in here saying he was going to go all the way, and with a 6 flat, that's got to make you guys real happy.
We're real happy. It's going to be a tough round next time. It'll be a real drag race, and I hope we can be there.
Can you win it with a 6?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We might have to do just a little bit better.
Okay, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Amy Volk certainly has the attention of the crew for Mike Koski, and well, she should. They go into the final round, Amy at 6:06, Koski at 6 seconds flat. If you've been paying attention, you know that Koski has the lane choice. Okay, Don Garlitz.
What do you think this thing ran?
Oh, about a 6:01.
6 flat. That's pretty good.
That is damn good. Maybe we'll get it in the 5s the next pass.
Well, you're going to need a good run. Amy runs 6:06, so it'll be a good race.
It'll be a real good race, but we got lane choice. That's the big key right there. We're into the final. That's all I care about. Too bad we can't win a world championship, though. It was already decided. But we'll be number 2. I'll guarantee you that. Okay?
Okay.
I think Koski is one of those drivers that doesn't like that bump I talked about in the left lane. That's why he wants lane choice so he can stay on the near side. Alcohol funny cars coming up.
Toward the final rounds here at San Air as darkness begins to fall because of the earlier rain delay. But earlier, Steve posed a question that I'm not sure any of you can answer.
You know, I was thumbing through the latest issue of National Dragster, and I got to wondering, who would be the most photographed person in the history of the sport? Whose picture would have appeared in the pages of National Dragster more than anybody else? Big Daddy Don Garlitz, right? Nah, I don't think so. Don Perdome probably ranks right there with Garlitz, but now it'd be Buster Couch, NHRA's official starter. You can't take a picture of 2 cars without getting you.
Well, that's because I'm so wide, I guess. He can't miss me if you get the starting line.
You know, you see everything that goes on the track. Do you still read National Dragster?
Oh, yeah, I read National Dragster religiously. I wait for it to come every Wednesday. It gets to my house on Wednesday and see what's happening. A lot of interesting reading in there.
See what they're saying about you?
Yeah, mostly see if they do say anything about me, good or bad.
You know, one of my favorite things is the crossword puzzle. Do you work the crossword puzzle, Buster?
Oh, when I have time, I do. That's interesting. You know, you'd be surprised how much fun it is when we're traveling on the road and the motels and all. I do quite a bit of it.
It is a lot of fun, and you only get National Dragster if you're a member of NHRA, like Buster and I. And you can join by calling this number. You'll get the decal, the patch, the pin, the rule book, lots of things. And if you call right now, a free copy of Diamond P Sports Home Video, Drag Racing 89. Join up!
All right, now, Steve, we're going to join up for some top alcohol funny cars semi-final action. Paul Johnson versus Danny Townsend, and this ought to be a good one.
Oh, I would agree with that. And you know, Brock, as we head into the twilight hours, as you said, it's cooling off. And these engines are liable to make more horsepower than they have earlier. 2 things can happen. One, you run quicker, or maybe you make a little too much horsepower for the clutch setup you've got and lose traction right off of the starting line for an instant, and that's enough to hurt you. You see the webbing on the wheelie bars there? That's so when the parachutes come out, if they happen to fall down the pilot chute, it doesn't get hung up on the wheelie bars. It'll hit on that and bounce off and deploy the parachute.
That's Danny Townsend's automobile. He is out of Muncie, Indiana. As we said earlier, he has won a whole lot of drag races over his career. One of the most experienced of the Sportsman drivers, and a man who is going to face a really formidable opponent in Paul Johnson. Johnson has run really well here all day long.
And Danny Townsend's crew has been very frustrated because they have not been running nearly as well as they did a week ago when they won the Sportsman race down in Columbus, Ohio. So here you've got a man who's been racing far less on the near line with maybe an advantage.
Right. Johnson's told Big Daddy that he feels his crew is just really operating on all 8 cylinders as we watch Danny Townsend's crew chief guide him into position, that critical bit of positioning on this pad where all that rubber's laid down and where you're going to get a launch. that is absolutely the key to winning a drag race, especially when the cars are as even as these two.
That's right. Pole shot's so very important in either one of the alcohol classes. All right, they idle up to the starting line, but soon that idle will be a thing of the past as they depress those pedals and move the tachometer needle almost around to the peg on these alcohol bunny cars. This is oh, Townsend gone like a rocket. He leaves Johnson sitting on the line, but here comes Johnson back. Johnson has won it with a magnificent 6:08, 228 miles per hour. It may only be the semis, but that crew is just bonkers down on the starting line. Brock Yates is there.
What a move, huh? Yeah, all right. Upset of the day. Great move.
Yeah, it sure was, boy. I tell you, we've been working on this clutch all week and finally got it dialed in just right.
You got it right. How do you feel? Will a 6:08 win this deal for you think?
It sure will. I'm after the yellow car.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
The yellow car being Bob Newberry as the Johnson crew throws down the gauntlet. Now watch Townsend in the far lane. He left yesterday, but still got away with it. No red light. Good clean start. 100th away from a perfect light. And I'm sure he saw no white car and he thought, this could be it. Then the car got very loose in that left-hand lane. Started bouncing around, and it cost him just enough elapsed time to lose the race to Johnson 6.08.
Well, you stepped it right up. A real fine 6:08, Paul.
You gotta be kidding me. That is the best run of my life.
I never kid about stuff like that.
Oh, my God. You know what it feels like. God, that is great. I'll tell you, that last round was for my crew. You know, we've been working at this thing. It was a brand new car at the end of last year after an 8-year layoff. You know, we did some match racing a few years ago. And that run was for my wife. My wife, Maureen, is the greatest thing in the world, and I'll tell you, if it wasn't for her and her efforts and her backing, unfortunately, she's not here, but I love that woman, and this is for her. I hope we can do it in the final.
Well, it sure looked like from our point that you'd never left it.
Boy, I don't know. It's just composure, I think. We're working on that real hard, and state of mind. You know, we're just working at it, and it's working for us. I'm in awe. I really don't know what to say. Thank you very much.
Just go back and do good.
Thank you, Don. We're going to give it our best.
Well, I think his fun meter is just about pegged. Paul Johnson, win or lose in the final round, has had a day here in Canada he will never forget.
Well, Steve, this is the last pairing in the Top Alcohol Funny Car semifinals. This is Canada's last hope. Bob Elliott, he is going against Bob Newberry. That's the man, remember, that Bob Ellison, Johnson's crew chief, said he wants in the finals. Said, I want that yellow car. And I would imagine that everybody in the place reckons that Newberry has to be the big favorite in this drag race.
Oh, for sure, but he's still got to get past Elliott. Anything could happen in 1,320 feet. Elliott away first. Elliott, a brilliant start. Could he upset Newberry? No. Newberry flashes by at 6:05, even quicker than Paul Johnson. That'll give him a lot of confidence going into the finals. Almost 230 miles per hour. And a race certainly, Brock, deserving of another look, would you say?
Absolutely. A great, great race on the part of Elliott, who got a super start and was on his way to victory if he hadn't really been overpowered by Newberry's just great drive and excellent horsepower in that yellow automobile. But Elliott sure did a super job and very nearly pulled it out. I wonder, Steve, if he'd been in the near lane, if he might have won the thing.
I don't know. Newberry by a clean car lane could have been awfully tough to beat no matter which lane you were in. So that sets up the finals for the Top Alcohol Funny Cars. Bob Newberry has lane choice over Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson has enthusiasm over everybody in this racetrack. Here's Amy Falk checking her parachutes for her final round to come. Stick with us.
Competition Eliminators semifinal action here at Saint Air outside Montreal, Quebec. And that is Ray Smith, little altered, getting ready to go against Tom Cressman. And this, Steve Evans, ought to be a really interesting race. Certainly the contrasting body styles and engineering efforts of the two automobiles make it fascinating competition.
Oh, absolutely. The heritage of hot rodding represented in the roadster-style vehicle and the heritage of street performance over the far lane with a C Super Modified car. Let's take a look at the index comparison. Cressman with a Super Modified car at 985. Smith with a D Economy Altered 840. Just a wink away from a full cycle of the tree, 1.45 seconds. Remember, I said again, the yellow lights are half a second apart. A tremendous start by Cressman, wheels in the air. A horrible start for Smith in the Roadster. He was 2/10 away from a decent light, and it showed at the finish line. Cressman, 9.40, 141, pulls off a 791, 164, but primarily because of the very late start on the part of Smith in the Roadster.
Okay, back to the second half of the competition eliminator semifinals. That is Canada's final hope. Ralph Hope. He is going against David Rampy and that white Pontiac Trans Am. Rampy has the lane choice. And now let's go to Don.
Tom, a 791 puts you in the final.
Good. It's the first time in final national event. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, that's always exciting when it's the first time.
It certainly is.
Car going to be all right?
Yes, I think we're running pretty good. We're picking up as the day goes on, and hopefully we'll be ready for the final.
Will this cooler air help you?
Oh, definitely. It'll help a heavier car a lot.
Oh, good luck.
Thank you very much.
So, young Tom Cressman heading for the possibility of his first NHRA championship trophy, Steve, as we watch Canada's Ralph Hope get ready to go. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be a pretty close drag race as far as the index is concerned.
That's right. Hope's little six-cylinder powered L. Aldred has a quicker index to the higher horsepower car, but of course weight plays a factor in the stock body machine in the near lane. They're off and away. Can the little orange Roadster pull it off for Canada? No, he cannot. It is Rampy the winner. Rampy goes to the finals at 867, 153 miles per hour. Ralph Hope 860 at 152 in his parting shot. So the pairing for the competition eliminator final, the enthusiastic young Thomas Cressman, his first ever final round, and David Rampy from way down south. Should be a beauty.
Here you are again, David, 867.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I never could find him, so I knew I didn't go red, so I thought we had it, you know, and I was just hanging on, you know. Well, it's good to be in the finals of another one. Boy, I tell you, we can just do our thing. We'll be all right, maybe.
Well, they're doing their thing over in the Bob Newberry pits. His crew hard at work checking over the valves for adjustment, putting in new spark plugs, a fresh load of methanol fuel, change the oil, which they do every single run. We'll be back for the finals after this.
Back at Saint-Air, Quebec for more Le Grandnational Sportsman competition as we watch Mike Koski get ready for his face-off against Amy Falk in the top alcohol dragster final. But earlier, Steve had a look at another one of the highly popular Sportsman stock classes.
Here at Saint-Air, NHRA is running a complete complement of Sportsman categories, some in addition to the ones we're highlighting. And my visual favorite has got to be Stock Eliminator, because it is jam-packed with muscle cars of the 60s and 70s, like Johnny Williams' Cajun Nightmare, the 71 Olds W30 with the original factory hood with the scoops and the hold-downs. This is a rare bird. Now, it's a lot cheaper to run in stock than an alcohol funny car, but it's no easier on your brain because the rules are so restrictive. Hard to make power with these things, hard to put them in the winner's circle. You've got to run the original engine. You're allowed 45 over bore. You have to run stock compression, a stock specs camshaft. You can balance it and you can try to clearance it a little bit where it runs freer and easier. You have to run the original stock carburetor. You can run the fuel, however, through a cool can to keep its density up. It'll perform far better that way. You've got to run the alternator, and they'll check to make sure that it's working, that it's building current. And you've got to run a water pump. But the rule book doesn't say with a belt, so Johnny runs his electrically, and that's worth about 2 horsepower. And it's finding 2 horsepower here and there that makes a winner. Getting the torque converter to launch off the starting line, the right gear and the right tire. A real challenge in Stock Eliminator. And by the way, how did Johnny do in stock? Did he give him nightmares?
Well, Steve, in fact, Johnny Williams was the victim of a little Cajun Nightmare. He went down in round 2 against John Wojciechowski.
But this was the actual Stock Eliminator final run for the trophy and all the prize money. The far lane, Paul Petricone, well, he blew it. He red-lighted right up the starting line. The green car in the new lane, the champion, Bob Broadbent. Broadbent, 11.54 seconds, 114 miles per hour. The losing and red-lighting, 11.19. This was the Superstock Eliminator final. Ollie Steffens' Corvette in the near lane versus Wally Clark. The tree came down, and Clark left too soon. He also fouled away his hopes of the title. Steffet in the Corvette. Near lane won it at 9.96 seconds, 134.30 miles per hour. In the Super Street Eliminator final, it was Rod Butcher in the near lane versus John Coyle. Here, there was no red light. A good, clean start by both drivers. Unlike the comp eliminator, Super Street runs on a 1090 index. All cars run on 1090. You can't run quicker than that or you're out of here, and that's what happened. Coyle in the far lane, 1084. The winner, near lane, Butcher at 10.94. Here was the Super Gas Eliminator final. They run a quicker index, 9.90. You can't run quicker than that unless, of course, your competition red lights, and that's what happened. Bob Phillips in the far lane left too soon. Nick Iaruzzi was the champion. He could run as quick as he wanted to, so he ran a 988 at 132 miles per hour. Well, that was earlier. This is now.
And David Rampy goes against young Tom Cressman. First time ever in the comp finals for the young man, and he is pumped, I'll guarantee you. Rampy, of course, one of the veterans in this class. Very, very competent driver as we see him do his burnouts in that white Trans Am. There's the Camaro of Cressman. Remember now, he ran a single in the second round. Then Ray Smith, his competition in the semifinal, fouled out. So Tom Cressman's had a couple of breaks. This is his really first really hard run that he faces the Alabamian Rampy. That's going to be an interesting combination. Rampy, very, very mature driver in this kind of competition, Steve.
That's right. Cressman will have the advantage. He will lead first by 0.7 of a second. And you're absolutely right. Rampy from Alabama, boy, that is just the heart of competition eliminator country. Cressman, that is a young guy that just might have what it takes. Oh, no. Remember what I said? It doesn't hurt to be the guy that leaves last because you can let your opponent do just what Cressman did, and that's foul away a title. Rampy wins it. 932, 153. That was not bad driving on Cressman's part. He had to take a gamble there. Rampy was closer to his index than Cressman was.
Well, let's take another look and see exactly how young Tom Cressman lost this race. Of course, in the far lane, that red Camaro, you see the tree come down. One light, there's the second light. Now he ought to go as the, and there is the red light, just a wink too soon as he carries the wheels out of the frame. And here comes Rampy on his way to an undisputed victory here in the competition eliminator final. And now let's go to Steve with the winner.
David, competition eliminator racing doesn't get a lot more difficult than it did here.
Boy, this was a tough one, boy. We just fought all day long, and all I know to do is thank my crew and thank God, and everything just went our way. And, you know, it just was great.
Not to mention a red light from your final round opponent.
Yeah, that helped a whole lot, because when we left the start line, I looked up, and my win light was already on. I said, God, thank you, Lord.
Will you stay in competition eliminator, do you think, for the rest of your drag racing career? It's so interesting.
I don't have no idea. I've jumped all over the place. I've done all kind of different types of drag racing, and I don't know, just, you know, whatever comes along, you know, if somebody give me a ride or something, just, you know.
Great.
Right now, I'm tickled to death right now, so I'm happy in comp right now.
Boy, we're tickled for you. Great job.
Our congratulations to David Rampy for a great effort. And now, coming up next, the top alcohol dragster final. We'll be back at Sanair for that race.
Bonjour, madame, messieurs. Couldn't resist that, Brock. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates. We only have 2 races to go here in Quebec, Canada at Le Grandnational Sportsman. That is Mike Koski, the potent supercharged Oldsmobile. He is up against a lady who has really started to make some strides in her alcohol dragster career. That is Amy Falk, a world champion in other sportsman classes, but this is the quickest she has ever gone, and it's taken her and her husband Kenny a little while to get it down. But they are a formidable opponent for Mike Koski here.
Well, they are, Steve, except that Koski, remember, ran a 6 flat, and that has put a lot of pressure on Amy, I'm sure. As the sun has already dipped below the horizon here at Sanair, about the only lights you can see are those little grandstand lights and those glistening yellow lights on the Christmas tree. And, of course, the one most important light, Steve, that's the wind light way down to the other end of the racetrack.
You got that. Mike Koski saw a wind light just last weekend in Columbus. You know, we saw a number of the sportsman drivers in their final rounds foul start, red light. You won't see that too often in this kind of heads-up competition. This is what's called a pro tree. It's 0.4 of a second. There's only one flash of yellow, then the green. Unlike the sportsman cars with their 0.5 tree, and different kind of drivetrains, they can red light even not trying to. If one of these cars red light, you know the driver was gambling, or they just let it slide through the brakes field or something like that. If you see yellow, you're not going to red light in one of these cars.
It's actually pretty distracting with the sportsman classes to see those blinking lights, and of course with the handicap starts, when you see somebody leave a second before you, the pressure is really on. These guys, well, they see yellow, and then right away they're going to see the green.
These guys and these girls.
That's right.
Amy Falk in the far lane. It is a better start for Koski. Amy gets near the center line, steers away, regains control, but it costs her the race. Mike Koski, 6:05, 226 miles per hour. And Amy, even with all her problems, 6.15. Let's go to Brock with Jim Danielko.
Well, Jim, you kept telling me that that's about what you needed to do here, and it worked out just about as predicted.
Yeah, it's getting dark like this and cooling down. I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, it was, but I would imagine, though, as the temperatures cooled down, you were probably worried about maybe too much horsepower.
Holding on to the track, stuff like that. She got a little loose out there, so that helped us, too.
Congratulations. Great show all day.
Thank you.
You know, I mentioned earlier that might be a concern. As it cooled off and the air got denser, you could make more power.
Well, as you can see, Mike Koski makes a really good start. He beats Amy off the line, and just about here, Amy starts to lose control. She gathers it up, does an excellent job of keeping it from crossing the center line, which, of course, would have disqualified her. She got back on the throttle, made a great race of it, but loses to Mike Koski. And now Steve is with the winner.
The American Flyer, Mike Koski, has made it 2 in a row. And, Mike, you just 6:05'd them to their knees. A final pass, 6:05 again.
With the shaking that bad, and we went a 0.5. All right.
What an opponent Amy Falk has become in the last 2 months.
Tough. You know, it's going to be real tough with her. I got to race her in division now. She says she's going to race my division. She's going to make it tough on me.
This was a tough race all the way around. There were no easy ones.
No, there was no easy races. We had it tuned up as best as we could, and you know, it ran good. We had to change a motor this morning.
I knew that.
We heard a motor, and we didn't want to take a chance with it, so we put the new bullet in it. It worked out good.
It indeed did. You fired a final round shot at 6:05 to win the title.
Okay, it would have went real quicker.
Great job for Mike Koski and his crew as they win 2 in a row. And now, the last sportsman race confrontation here at Sanair. Paul Johnson, the underdog, clearly going against Bob Newberry, the man who has won repeatedly in the top alcohol funny car class. And I'll tell you what, Steve, Johnson is going to be mighty tough.
And Brock, these drivers face even a tougher task with this improving air, which means more power. We just heard everybody talk about it in the Alcohol Dragster final. They don't have that huge, big rear wing. They've got a spoiler, but not the same kind of downforce. The motor is a midship, really, in front of the driver. They don't have all that weight over the rear axle. They've really got to kind of pussyfoot off the starting line and not smoke the tires, unless their clutch, of course, is just right.
Right. And, of course, Johnson is running in that lane that Amy Falk had problems in, so perhaps that'll prey on his mind. But he has run so well that, well, a lot of people, I think, may be thinking that Newberry is almost a shoo-in here because of his experience and credentials. Paul Johnson is definitely a factor, I think.
Well, he has run within, what, 6 or 7 hundredths of Newberry on 2 occasions today, so I'd agree with you there, especially if he could get an excellent start. That has been the name of the game in so many side-by-side confrontations today, and tonight, I guess I should say, here at Sanair. I mean, it is real dark. Actually, those white walls reflect a lot of light onto the racetrack, so this is not a dangerous situation, believe me, or NHRA wouldn't allow them to run. Paul Johnson, far lane, the bright yellow car in the near lane, Bob Newberry, free stage. The RPMs come up. Who'll move in first? Johnson, Newberry follows. Johnson away first. Newberry falling behind. Newberry has blown an engine. There's oil pouring out of it. It is Paul Johnson. 6:39. Oh, a lot of sparks underneath the car. He's dragging something. Safety safari already rolling. Shouldn't be a big problem. So let's go to Brock Yates on the starting line.
Fantastic. A team of destiny today. Is that right?
Oh, I'll tell you, we never worked so hard in all our life. We had broken valve lash caps and everything in that one. Never thought we could fix them.
You're not going to have a party tonight, are you?
Oh, nothing like that. No, who cares about work tomorrow?
Congratulations.
Very much.
Great bunch of guys. They are the champions. And Brock, who would have thought Newberry would have a major mechanical failure? That never happens to him, but boy, it did big time.
Well, he got a little bit of an edge at the start, really, but there it came all apart for Bob Newberry, and you can see Paul Johnson just drive away with an effortless victory after the engine failure on the part of Newberry. But it wasn't all that simple for Paul Johnson, because he either dropped part of his clutch or perhaps one of the exhaust headers, but he had some scraping metal on the racetrack as he came to a stop. That prevented him from running a very good time, only 181 miles an hour at 6:39. Now, that would not have been enough to win had Newberry been running properly. But no matter, he was not to be denied today. And now let's go to Steve.
I think here is a man under this white helmet so happy he could interview himself. Paul Johnson, great.
Happy as a lark. A dream come true. I'd just like to say to people out there, anybody who ever might watch this, you got a dream, go for it. Because you can achieve any level of success or do anything you want, as long as you got a right state of mind. We're just lucky. I mean, it just worked. It's great. I'm so excited, I don't know what to say.
And you've had a wonderful family behind you through this whole effort.
Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable. Especially my wife, Maureen, who isn't here, but she's been if it wasn't for her, I couldn't have done this. Right. It's as simple as that.
What was dragging into the car? We were concerned there were a lot of sparks. We thought it was fire, but I think it was just sparks.
Something went away, three-quarter track maybe, and I don't know what it was.
Floor belts off it, we know that.
Is it off? Yeah. Well, we had some valve spring problems and some lash cap problems prior to the run. We had to change a few things there, and we might have sucked a valve or something.
Go enjoy yourself. Celebrate.
Thank you very much. We're going to. This is a dream come true.
Oh, the first one. Always so special for any of these drag races in any category.
A great show by Paul Johnson and his entire crew. Our congratulations to them and to all the winners of the Sportsman categories here at San Air. For Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Oh.